He cannot be a part of this national team setup. We have too many other options in that position, in those areas, that are just better than him in pretty much every way. The U.S. men's national team advances to the knockout stages of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar after a hard-fought, well-earned victory against Iran on match day 3 of the group stages. Really impressive all over the pitch. We had big displays coming from Christian Pulisic, from Tyler Adams, from Weston McKennie, from Matt Turner, and from a surprise showing of Cameron Carter-Vickers. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Overall, it was a really solid performance. It was, of course, a tale of two halves, as the first half was the U.S. trying to get that goal. We just were consistently attempting to break them down, whether it was through, dribbling around players trying to create through the middle, or getting the ball out wide to Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest and trying to whip in crosses and get on the end of rebounds and whatnot. There were several different ways in which we were attacking this Iranian back line, and we ended up getting the goal from Christian Pulisic off of a Weston McKennie long ball. And I really want to take a moment to single out Weston McKennie because I think he's kind of been our unsung hero of the tournament so far. He's been excellent every single minute, more or less, that he's played on the pitch. He's had a few missteps here and there. Tyler Adams, of course, I think has been our best player all around. For me, it's hard to argue that. I know people will say Christian Pulisic, but I think Tyler Adams has been absolutely instrumental in this midfield. A large part of the reason the U.S. has looked good in this tournament so far has been the defensive prowess. Yes, the press has something to do with that, but Tyler Adams has been like an octopus back there in the heart of the park. 8 arms, 8 limbs, just stretching out, catching everything, stopping everybody, intercepting balls, making tackles here and there. He's covering so much of the pitch, and he's playing fantastic. And Weston McKennie has been an excellent partner for him. And I think Weston McKennie really shone through today. A side of his game that I haven't really seen before that was on display today was his ability to distribute the ball vertically. He was really impressive. He was picking long passes to Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest from all over the pitch, and it was really, really instrumental in this win. He was slicing and dicing this Iranian backline apart to find our dangerous players in the final third, get them isolated one-on-one with the Iranian fullbacks, and they didn't really have an answer for it. That was where the goal came from, was a Weston McKennie long ball over the top to Serginho Dest, who then gets a low cross into Pulisic. Pulisic buries it. Goal, game, right there. Match won. There are a few other instances where McKennie threw in balls from deep to pick out Robinson or Dest, or even Tim Weah and Josh Sargent were trying to get on the end of them as well. However, the only one that was capitalized on was that Pulisic goal where he found Dest out wide. And I think that's a large reason of why we won today, was just McKennie was so incredible all over the pitch. He's been really good out of possession. We know this. He's defensively very sound. He's a tremendous athlete. He really is. He's got an incredible work rate, very fast, very strong, big player in the heart of the park, really kind of just muscles players off of the ball. But his technique was on display here, and I think that we have a lot to thank for Weston McKennie for going through here. The midfield all around has probably been our best area of the pitch throughout this tournament. Matt Turner in goal has looked really solid as well, but the midfield has been consistently performing. They haven't really had a bad game, with the exception of Yuna Musa being, in my opinion, subpar against Wales. The midfield has looked very impressive all around. We've been implementing this high press that Berhalter wants us to play with, and the midfield is backing that up. The forwards are, of course, putting pressure on that back line, but the midfield is getting those second balls. The midfield is cutting out the passing lanes, and they're doing an excellent job of that. Tyler Adams has them in sync. There's so much chemistry floating around between this three of Yunus Musa, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, and it's really working. We've never had a midfield that is this complete, that is this balanced, that is this well-rounded before in U.S. men's national team history. Prior, in years past, we had Landon Donovan, and that was pretty much it. I mean, Kellen Acosta was probably our best midfielder 4 years ago. Now we've got 3 or 4 really, really solid midfielders in the center of the park who are just able to go toe-to-toe with anybody. I think there's so much athleticism in there between Adams, McKennie, and Musa. They're all strong for their size. They're all quick, and they all have the endurance to play 90 minutes with the world's best. And if the U.S. is going to get results against the big boys, it's going to be because we need to dominate that midfield. And I think with the three that we have, Tyler Adams, McKennie, Musa, it really is possible. At the moment, it looks like the weak link is Musa. I think he's really good advancing the ball, like dribbling and carrying the ball through the midfield, through the lines. And he's not too bad out of possession either. I would like to see him get a little bit better in his first touch and in his distribution, but he's 20. Today was his 20th birthday, so happy birthday, Yunus Musa. Today was his 20th birthday, so there's still a lot of room for improvement there. But the midfield has what has been so impressive, most impressive about this U.S. men's national team so far at the World Cup. We also, of course, have been really complete in our press. We're getting 3 forwards to press that back line, and Josh Sargent had a really good game today, I think particularly out of possession. For me, Sargent is one of those players who's kind of decent at everything, but not really great or good at anything. He doesn't really have any standout qualities, but he works really hard, and he's not really bad at anything. He's not going to sit there and drag the team down. He's just not going to elevate us to the next level. And so for a match like today, we don't need him to do that. We just need him to go in there and do a job, and he did that, and he stepped up, and he showed a much better performance than he did against Wales. Against Wales, he had 17 total touches, whereas today, he had 34, so he doubled the amount of times he was on the ball, and he got on the ball in dangerous areas. He held up play really well. He won possession back a few times. He provided outlets when Pulisic, when Weah, Dest, Robinson, when these players in these wide areas were under pressure, Sargent offered outlet to them to keep the play alive, to keep the attack alive, to keep momentum against this Iranian back line. And he had a really, really good response compared to his disappointing performance against Wales to open up the group stages for us. We all knew that Serginho Dest is really good in the final third. He's got a wicked cross on him, wicked final ball. But where he's really been stand out for me so far has been his defensive work, as well as his ability to step into the midfield and invert, which opens up space for players like McKennie or Musa, in today's case, to advance forward down that right-hand flank. And he provides that little extra bit of defensive stability while these players press forward. And I'm really, really surprised and shocked at how well he's taken that role on. Because I always kind of thought of him more as like a wingback, as like a hybrid between a defender and a forward, as he's kind of a man without a position, I had always felt. But after this tournament, after these group stages, that is absolutely not the case. He's been very impressive, going both ways for this U.S. men's national team. Christian Pulisic as well has been the Captain America that we need him to be. I still have reservations and misgivings when it comes to his final ball, when it comes to his timing on his release. I think that he holds the ball too long sometimes, and there was a play that I want to talk about later in the video where that was on display, where we had several players through. All he needed to do was actually sit there and get rid of the ball, and he didn't. He tries to dribble through 3 players, and then he ends up losing possession, and the attack goes. When you're a star, man, that's to be expected. That happens to players like Messi, like Neymar, like Ronaldo all the time. The thing is, Pulisic isn't on that level. He's a very good player, but he isn't a generational world-class player. And I think if the U.S. men's national team wants to get the most out of this golden generation that is coming up, Pulisic needs to understand that and needs to find ways to bring these other players in to the game without making it all about him. He's not good enough to be that guy. Now I know that you're sitting there like, well, he's not good enough to be that guy. He scored a goal and was our best player of the tournament so far. Yeah, he did score the goal. There were a few other opportunities that he blew, and he's been our best forward so far in the tournament, but Tyler Adams has been undoubtedly our best player so far, and in my opinion, Tim Ream is a close second. McKennie has also been very good. Serginho Dest has been very good. There are other players in this lineup that make it so that Pulisic doesn't have to shoulder the burden of being the star man anymore. He's really, really good, and if we want to advance, if we want to continue to make a name for ourselves on the international level, we're going to need Pulisic to take his game up to that next level. And that means developing in this final third. That means working on his release. That means finding ways to make the team win rather than just do it himself. Aside from those standout performers, the rest of the boys played really, really well. Robinson was a menace down the left-hand side the entire first half. He was getting isolated with Rizalian, with the fullback one-on-one, and he was putting in really, really good threatening balls that we just couldn't seem to get on the end of. We were playing Josh Sargent, not Haji Wright. Haji Wright is 6'3". So when we do play Haji, which I could see us potentially going back to that for this game against the Netherlands, because the Netherlands aren't going to sit as deep as Iran, I could see us playing Haji Wright. Those balls from Robinson might work really well. He might be able to get on the end of them. He's just a big guy. He's a big, athletic, lanky forward, and it wouldn't surprise me if he is able to capitalize on these balls that Robinson whips into the box. And regardless, Robinson played absolutely fantastic. Tim Weah as well had a really good game. I definitely think there's room for improvement. There was a play early in the first half where he got the ball down by the byline, and he tried to whip in a cross from just inside the box. In my opinion, he probably should have tried to go for the corner there. He let the ball... Yeah, he wasn't able to control the ball as it rolled out of bounds. Then he was able to get his foot off balance for a pretty shite cross that didn't end up connecting with anybody, and the ball was already out of bounds anyways. So I want to see him in those sort of situations making the smarter move, where he goes and he wins the corner or something like that, especially in international football where set pieces mean so much. I mean, they're just... The majority of goals, well, a fair portion of goals in tournament football come from set pieces, because you don't have the time to sit there and practice your tactics. You don't have the time to sit there and rehearse your set piece defending. So I want to see him try and make that smarter decision to just keep the U.S. on the attack. It ended up going out for a goal kick, and we had to reset. Now, all's well that ends well. I'm not sitting here trying to harp on him, because he did play well. There's room for improvement for players like Tim Weah. Tim Ream played really well. Cameron Carter-Vickers, I think, stepped in, played a solid game, really helped shut down Mehdi Taremi on that left-hand side, so much so to the point that they ended up moving Taremi over to the right for the second half to try and get him more working off of Tim Ream. And Matt Turner was really solid in goal as well. He's making a name for himself as the U.S. number one. In my opinion, his place isn't in any doubt. Even if he goes and has an absolute stinker against Netherlands, Matt Turner, I'm very comfortable with him being our number one. And what I think was really on display today was his distribution and the way that was able to change the way the U.S. plays. He's good with his feet. He's a lot better with his feet than I think anybody expected. And he's a good shot stopper at that as well. There are concerns over Christian Pulisic's injury on his goal, where he got on the end of Serginho Dest's cross. It was right in front of the 6-yard box, and he had a collision with the goalkeeper. Took a shot to either maybe like the abdominal area or the groin area, which is, as we all know, very unpleasant. And so The Athletic is reporting that he was taken to the hospital to have scans done on his abdominal region. So that's certainly worrisome. We do have a few players who can step in and do the job if Pulisic is out. That being said, he's been undoubtedly our best forward. I'm not entirely confident with Brendan Aronson, with Giovanni Reyna stepping in to try and take on those responsibilities. But I'm not entirely disappointed or unconfident either. I think that they can be really good players in this system, and I think that they can do what we ask Christian Pulisic to do. So yeah, it's definitely something to be worried about. We'll know more as time goes on, and when these scans come back. We're lucky, I think, in that we're one of the early groups, so there's plenty of time now between... It's Saturday. Our next match is Saturday against the Netherlands in the round of 16, the first round of knockout football. It's good to be back, isn't it? I mean, we've missed it. I think anybody who's been following U.S. soccer for a while now has really missed it and knows that this is a team that belongs in these knockout stages, and it's just really, really, really good to be back. So hopefully Pulisic is returned to health by then and can continue to lead the forward line for us then. And it looks like we're just getting word now that indeed Pulisic has himself confirmed that he'll be ready for Saturday. Of course, we need to take this with a grain of salt. The player is always, in any sort of injury like this, the player is always going to say positive things, that they're going to be ready. So we need to take it with a grain of salt, but it is looking positive that Christian Pulisic is going to be back for Saturday's tie against the Netherlands, and we need him for that. So something that I want to talk about here was the positioning and where we had Yunus Musah and Weston McKennie switch places for this match, which I thought was a really interesting decision, but I think it ended up working really well. And one of those reasons is, of course, Weston McKennie was able to get on the ball in really comfortable areas with his right foot, where he had the whole of the final third, pretty much everything over to his right on his strong foot, and he was just able to spray balls into these channels, deep into these channels here on either side of the 18-yard box. And I think that was a large part of why we won today. Of course, that was where the goal came from, and several different chances and opportunities came from plays like that. So I thought that was a really, really good decision from Greg Berhalter, was switching Yunus Musah and Weston McKennie. Yunus Musah, of course, was being asked to progress the ball. When he would get it in these areas, he was being asked to progress it on the right-hand side to dribble through, whereas Dest was kind of more of a overlapper. He was coming through over top on the right as Tim Weah was cutting inside. Serginho Dest was overlapping, and Yunus Musah was kind of occupying these areas, interchanging with those two players, offering rotation and options outlets. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side of the formation, Anthony Robinson was making bombing runs down the left. Christian Pulisic, of course, was cutting inside as well to operate more in this half space area right here to try and create, to try and get on the ball, to try and threaten, pull players out of position, and then find Josh Sargent, Tim Weah to create opportunities. And Weston McKennie as well, playing on the left-hand side. He was also staying a little bit deeper. The other thing that I wanted to show you guys today was the shot map. So these were all of the shots and locations that we had throughout the match. Again, compliments of whoscored.com. This right here, this one right down at the center of the box, USA is in blue and then Iran is in orange. This one right here down at the top of the 6-yard box, this was the goal. And you'll see a kind of a worrying sign is this semicircle here. Now, I think a lot of this is due to the fact that Iran sat so deep in this low block and were just so defensive. I mean, they were just hoping to defend for their lives and then nick a goal wherever they could. That's how Iran plays. That's how they set up. They come from this Portuguese style of football with Carlos Queiroz. And you're not going to score a lot of goals if these are all of your chances coming from outside the box or from tough angles. I think Tim Weah had a decent attempt at goal from here, but he ended up skying it over the bar, going for the near post, trying to beat the keeper. It was a good look, but that was really the next best opportunity that we had besides the goal from Christian Pulisic. So what we want to do is we want to find ways to get the ball into our dangerous players, into our forwards, into McKennie, into Musah. In this area, like right around the penalty spot, you want to have a straight angle through on goal from central areas, close to, not outside the box. That's all right, though. We ended up getting our goal, and no harm, no foul. We did allow a few chances in dangerous areas, you'll see here, but these all came on at the end of the game. After we had subbed on our defensive players like Kellyn Acosta, Zimmerman, Shaq More. Kellyn Acosta himself isn't really a defensive player. He's a midfielder. He's a true box-to-box midfielder. But we subbed him on for, I think it was Tim Weah. So we were playing much more defensive. We were playing a 5 at the back with a 4-man midfield, and Brendan Aronson was the lone man up top to try and counter. That was when we were conceding all of these chances against Iran. It all came in the last 15 minutes or so of the match. Could have been worse. It was very nervy. Iran had one really solid opportunity in, I think the 8th minute of stoppage time where they were able to get a header late on goal, and then there was one other opportunity they had where there was a cross that Matt Turner came out for, and it just kind of ended up just sneaking through Turner's legs as the Iranian forward slid into it to try and get on the end of it, and we were able, I think it was Zimmerman, was able to clear it off of the goal line at the end. So there were a few chances But all in all, they came after the U.S. kind of shut down and was playing much more defensive. I don't want to see us play this defensive game. It does not seem to be our strong suit. It's not how the team really wants to play. It's not how Berhalter wants to play. So that's something I want to see us avoid. And I think that we will. I think that we're going to continue to try to play this 4-3-3 attacking possession-based football. And that seems to be what's working so far. So going on to like player ratings here, I do want to touch on this. I have a few disagreements with who scored, so I just want to go on about that. For me, Tyler Adams gets man of the match. He's just excellent. He really is. I think he's our most important player. Without him, I don't think we have any chance of winning any of these group stage games, let alone any of the knockout rounds. So I think for me, Tyler Adams gets man of the match and our most important player in terms of the squad in general. Weston McKennie, I'm going to bump him up. He had an excellent game. I'm going to give him a solid 7. I'm comfortable giving Tyler Adams an 8. I think Pulisic, I'll give him a 7.5. I think he was really solid. Matt Turner, I'll give him a 7. He was good when called upon, didn't really have too much to do. Ream and Carter Vickers, I'll give them both 7s, along with Dest and Robinson. They can be 7s as well. Musa, I'm going to give him a 6.5. I think he was really solid on this right-hand side, but McKennie was the better midfielder, and Musa didn't have as much to do. I'm not sure why who scored is giving Musa a higher rating than McKennie. I thought McKennie was really good all around today. Josh Sargent, I'm going to give him a 6, much better than his 3 or 2 or whatever you wanted to rate him against Wales the other day. That was awful, so Sargent with a decent performance to bounce back. And Tim Whale also is going to get a 6. Just wasn't able to connect, wasn't able to get through on goal too often. He did score that goal at the end of the second half, but it ended up getting called back for offsides. And it was the right call. I know the U.S. broadcast, the Fox broadcast, didn't show the VAR check, but the VAR check was indeed made, and it was the right call, unfortunately for us. In terms of how we're going to line up against the Netherlands, I definitely think we're going to see this 4-3-3 again. I think Sargent is going to come out for Haji Wright. I think we're not going to see as much of the ball against the Netherlands. I think Berhalter knows this, and I think he's going to play Haji Wright. So Sargent isn't going to be asked to do as much in terms of link-up play. And instead, we're going to try and be clinical in our attacking movements to get runners in behind, to get the ball into the box to Haji Wright. I think that's what we're going to try and do, rather than trying to play link-up and possession with Josh Sargent up here. But we'll see. I think the rest of the team is going to be the same. I expect Yunus Musa to come back onto this left-hand side and switch McKennie back over to this right. But today worked really, really well. So you might see this, Weston McKennie, still playing on the left, trying to hit through balls in De Gea and Sargent. I just don't think against the Netherlands back 3 that's going to work. So I think they're going to rather have McKennie try and be more of a ball carrier rather than a distributor against the Netherlands on Saturday. Ream, Carter Vickers, I think Carter Vickers did really well, and I hope that he keeps his spot. I think he is a better player than Zimmerman. I know that we started the tournament with Walker Zimmerman because it's his place. It has been for a long time. But in my personal opinion, Cameron Carter-Vickers is the better player. I think James Sands, who's not even in the squad as well, is a better player than Walker Zimmerman. Not that Zimmerman is necessarily bad. I think he's deserves a spot in the squad. But in the starting lineup, I just think that's a bit much for him. And so I hope Cameron Carter-Vickers keeps his place alongside Tim Ream on Saturday. Of course, it wouldn't be a False Nine Show video if there wasn't me criticizing Berhalter for a little bit. I don't know why he's bringing on Shaq More here. We have Joe Scally in reserves. I don't know why Shaq More is in the squad. He isn't good enough. Everybody in the world can see that Shaq More is the weak link when he is on the pitch, and he cannot be subbed on anymore. He cannot be a part of this national team setup. We have too many other options in that position, in those areas, that are just better than him in pretty much every way. I'm not trying to be a hostile or aggressive towards Shaq More. He's just not good enough. He's not good enough. The U.S. wants to be a top 10 team in the world. That's where we should be. That's probably where we'll go into the next World Cup, is being a top 10 team in the world. Hopefully, as long as things go according to plan, as long as players continue to progress. Shaq More is not good enough to be a squad player in that situation. If he wants to make the 50-man shortlist, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that there's you're going to struggle to find 50 players better than Shaq More. But 26 players better than him, absolutely. I think that if you want an experienced defender from the MLS to be part of this US men's team squad, Ryan Hollingshead is absolutely that dude. That guy deserves a place in this squad much more than Shaq More does. Not only because he's really good as a right back, not only because he's a super sub, not only because he is a current MLS champion, not only because he has shown clutch abilities in high pressure moments, not only because he has the experience of playing in win or go home games, but also because he provides cover on the left, and we don't have a natural player who can fill in for Anthony Robinson on the left. And Hollingshead, while that's not his natural position, he played there prior to his spinal injury. And absolutely, I think that guy deserves a shout, a place in this squad much more in every single way than Shaq More. I don't know why Shaq More is still getting minutes. The decision to include Shaq More and Jordan Morris was truly abysmal. That is, and if it comes down to that's the reason why the U.S. ends up going home, that's going to be extremely disappointing. I don't know why Shaq More is coming on and not Joe Scally. I understand Joe Scally is younger, but you don't bench Mbappe because he's young. I know I just compared Joe Scally with Mbappe, and I guess I'm getting a bit over my head. Joe Scally's a better player than Shaq More in pretty much every metric. He's a really good, really talented, up-and-coming young right back, and he should be getting these minutes over Shaq More. You should be blooding him so that when we need him in the World Cup in 4 years, then we can call on him, then we can say that he has World Cup experience. And he can't be worse than Shaq More. We almost conceded 3 times with attacks coming down Shaq Moore's side. He's just not good enough. And I'm going to hold that against Berhalter from now until the end of his tenure, because that needs to stop. That needs to stop. Jordan Morris, Shaq More, they have no place in this squad. And we need to bring up players who actually deserve their place, who aren't just getting in due to nepotism. That's going to wrap everything up for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Really excellent day of football for the U.S. It's just so good to be back in these knockout rounds. I was really worried after that opening draw against Wales. I was very concerned that this was going to be a hurdle for this young team, but they have showed their character and their determination and why we deserve a place at this World Cup, why we deserve a place in the knockout round. Going and getting the draw against England, going and getting the victory against Iran when we needed a victory. A draw wasn't going to cut it. We needed a victory, and we went and we got it, and we deserve to go through. So, awesome stuff all around. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you all on Saturday.